Hi everyone! The Inktober art challenge has officially come to an end, and I'd love to share my illustrations from the final week, while everything's still fresh in my mind. I'll also give a quick recap of the materials I use in my sketchbook. Mostly regular black markers, with the occasional touch of watercolor, ink and white pen for highlights. The first prompt of the final week was button. As you can see, my association was quite straightforward: elevator buttons, though judging by the scene, it seems like that elevator isn't headed to the most pleasant place. Here I used mixed media again to create a more atmospheric illustration. By this point I had figured out that this technique works great for depicting worn, rough textures. When you need to convey deep but uneven darkness, ink does an excellent job. It gives the scene a more vivid, tangible feel. I'm still struggling a bit with eyes and teeth. They were supposed to look eerie, but ended up a bit cartoonish instead. I'll keep experimenting with the technique to get closer to what I have in mind. The next prompt was ROWDY. I think every illustrator has a few pieces that just don't turn out right, and for me, this one was definitely the weakest of the entire Inktober. The proportions fell apart completely, everything went crook, just a total mess. But I decided to be honest and show everything I created, so this drawing also deserves its place in the review. The next prompt was INFERNO, and I'd been looking forward to it for a while. I really wanted to draw something dark, imposing and monumental. I sketched out several concepts, and they all revolved around the same idea: the confrontation between a fragile human and something enormous, terrifying and beyond comprehension. I wanted to capture both the claustrophobic feeling of being trapped and the vast, overwhelming scale of a place that clearly wasn't meant for humans. That's why I chose a strong vertical composition, with two massive, heavy gate doors dominating the scene as if they could swallow everything around them. In this drawing, I think the combination of all the different materials came together really well. The ink created a rich, uneven texture in the darkest areas, while the black markers contrasted beautifully against the white paper, especially around the giant eye. The white markers and pens worked great on the dark background, emphasizing the reflections and highlights. Overall, it was an interesting exercise in layering and drawing details over such a complex background. The next drawing combines two prompts, puzzling and onion. For this one, I went back to using a linear marker technique to speed up the process, since by that point I didn't have much time or energy left for long, detailed illustrations. This piece took me about an hour to complete, and it turned out quite minimalistic, but I actually like its simplicity. For this prompt, I decided to use a reverse effect. In fact, this is a fairly common technique in illustration. It always looks quite interesting and attracts attention. It also works great for minimalist drawings, where the idea is more important than the execution technique. In those cases, the reverse effect works very well. The next prompt was skeletal, and I had been really looking forward to it. It was my second time drawing a skeleton during Inktober, so I was curious to see how much I'd improved. The first one was for the deer prompt, back when I was just beginning to experiment with mixed media. I didn't love that earlier result. This time, I think it turned out much better, at least the result was more controlled and intentional. While drawing, I already had a clear idea of what I wanted the final piece to look like and how to use the materials to get there. I knew I needed to separate the composition into strong contrasting areas, so the small bones wouldn't blend into the background. In the end, I painted the sky with solid ink to create a dense, dark backdrop, and used only black markers on white paper for the rest of the illustration. The next illustration combines two prompts again, lesson and vacant. By the end of the challenge, I was feeling pretty exhausted and worried I wouldn't have enough time to finish all the prompts, so I decided to merge these two themes into one piece. For this piece, I went back to mixed media, ink for the deep starry sky and markers for everything else. The drawing came out a little schematic, and that was completely intentional. I wanted to keep it clean and minimal, so I skipped perspective altogether. All the elements, like the books and shelves, are drawn front-facing, giving the composition a flat, almost symbolic look. And finally, the last prompt of Inktober award, the final theme of the challenge. As you can probably tell from the drawing, I had almost no energy left at that point. It turned out a bit crooked and uneven, but I think the idea still comes through. At first, I considered using mixed media and creating a more detailed, elaborate piece. But in the end, I decided to keep it simple and stick with a purely graphic approach, using only markers. And with that, the final prompt is complete, Inktober officially finished. As I mentioned in the first video, I still have a few more drawings done on black paper using white pens inverted pieces. As promised, I'll be making a separate video to review those. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.